Hi, and welcome to CSCMP's Member Mondays. I'm your host, Timothy Pajak, and I'm the Membership Engagement Manager here at CSCMP. We're pleased to have Hannah Kain, President and CEO of ALOM, as our guest. Hannah founded ALOM in 1997 as a one-stop strategic supply chain partner. Hannah, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Hannah, I look forward to our conversation. Let's jump right into it. Well, let's start with your journey to CSCMP. You've been a member for almost 20 years, but I know your CSCMP journey really begins in Denmark. Talk us through that. When and why did you join CSCMP?
Well, you're right. I started my journey in Denmark. I was born in the town of the fairy tale author Hans Christian Andersen and bought a one-way ticket to the US in 1990, and in 97 started ALOM. And you know, I'm so proud to be in supply chain, right? And ALOM is all about supply chain and the pride in supply chain. Being part of CSCMP is, of course, taking pride in your profession. It's also learning from others and being part of that overall community. So what excites me about supply chain is a number of different things. First of all, there's something about this physical handling product and getting product into the hands of consumers and also business users. And then there's a digital supply chain, right? And that is exciting in itself, and getting that in parallel with the physical supply chain and the opportunities there. And of course, the financial supply chain, and running those three in parallel is really interesting and complex. And I love being in supply chain. It's a field that's really developing. When I started ALOM, supply chain was barely a thing. Nobody really knew what it was. And today it's probably considered one of the key disciplines in business. So lots of development, and I feel CSCMP is sitting right there in the center of that development.
You know, one thing that stood out to me when I was reading through your Meet a Member profile was your background and your interest in technology as being a big reason that you started ALOM. What technologies or trends, of course, disruptive forces might be everything from COVID, which we're all experiencing. What other disruptive forces do you see having a big impact on supply chain in the coming years?
Well, yeah, ALOM is headquartered in Silicon Valley, so there's a lot of inspiration to get right out of the neighborhood. You know, when I look at supply chain, we have grown complexity so much. And you look at a typical technology product, about 60 to 80 border crossings just on tier 1 suppliers. And you go to tier 2 suppliers, you get even more. And so that complexity just in the border crossings, but then you look at, okay, we also want to do corporate social responsibility with our supply chain. We also want to get it out in an omni-channel manner, many of the products at least. So there's a lot of things going on that all need to go right in the supply chain. So that complexity has been growing and growing and growing, and here during the pandemic, even grown more. And so getting back to your question about technology has also been growing, and the technology solutions growing. But in my best opinion, over the last 10 years, complexity has outgrown technology solutions. And that has been a big concern, because really possibly we have been backpedaling a little bit and doing sort of more of the old-fashioned spreadsheets and try to just do workarounds to catch up. And so what happens before COVID was, I thought that now technology was getting there, but then the pandemic just overlaid additional complexity. So I still think technology is lagging behind, and the complexity is growing faster than technology solutions. But I'm an optimist, right? So I'm thinking that the technology solutions are going to come into play, and I'm especially looking at artificial intelligence, machine learning, those type of things to be really big movers, right? So both in terms and you know, I do think that blockchain eventually is going to be a positive influence in supply chain. But I do think that we don't have the ecosystems to really make blockchain into the panacea that we would like to see it. So I do think that the solutions are going to come, but I also think that we are at a point where the complexity is very, very high, and supply chain professionals are really building a new road just as we go, right? You know, I mean, we're building the road just right in front of us, both with technology and how we do things and so forth. So my advice is always, if we can remove some of the complexity while we wait for the technology to come up, that's a good thing.
Absolutely. And Hannah, you mentioned being an optimist, right? And it made me think of one thing you mentioned in your Meet a Member was about your childhood dream and being an entrepreneur. And here you are fulfilling that. You have every reason to be an optimist, right?
Well, you cannot be an entrepreneur if you're not an optimist, right? You know, there are always stuff happening when you're an entrepreneur, but it's correct. I think I was 4 when I started my first entrepreneurial venture, and when I was a teenager, oh, that was what I was dreaming about, was starting my own company. And you know, most teenage girls dream about meeting Mr. Right, and I did do that, but I mainly dreamt about actually starting my own company and running my own company, and very, very grateful that that came to fruition in '97. And you know, one of the things that's fulfilling about running your own company is how much good you can do in the world. So here during the pandemic, we got the opportunity to ship COVID test kits. And so we produce and ship COVID test kits, still millions and millions of them. And it was part of my commitment to be part of the solution to the pandemic. And so as a company CEO, you can make those type of decisions and really make a world of difference. And the same with our sustainability initiatives, doing right by the planet. So that's part of the influence you can have. And then, of course, really important over to employees and giving them a career opportunity, seeing them grow, probably the biggest satisfaction of all, and creating an environment where they can thrive. And of course, our suppliers, and you know, I mean, they are part of the ecosystem too. So you have a lot of influence there. And then being in supply chain is just fantastic, and because of the pioneering, the new thing. So I feel very fortunate, right? I'm living my dream, both in terms of being in an industry that's super interesting and really pioneering, and also at the same time running my company. And I did get Mr. Right.
That's amazing. All of it. Well, that's all the time we have today. Hannah, thank you so much for your membership, and thank you so much for coming on and joining us as part of Member Mondays.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, and thank you for being part of such a wonderful organization, helping supply chain professionals through these very interesting times.
Welcome. Have a wonderful day.